Black Desert Online Console Edition. So, I am Crafty Games, and today I will be bringing you a video about how to start the new season off in a good way. For basically, it's a guide for new and returning players, but more so focused on the newer player aspect. Let me give you a little input on what my channel is going to be about. I'll have other games, but focused when playing BDO, it will be console because I feel the content creation is not there for a console version for BDO. It's kind of nowhere to be found. Not many people do content that are on console, and those that do kind of just stick to guides for particular classes. So I decided to make a guide for console players where they can come and they can see these things and learn and grow in BDO. And I want to see the game grow, especially on console. And there's tons of content for the PC version, but the problem is for console, we're so far behind. We're not going to be in that position where we can understand certain aspects of what they're sharing. They have things like artifacts we just don't have, so we can't apply that when it comes to grinding when people are sharing their class guides. So that's one thing that's struggle. So that was a little basics about what this channel is going to be about. Now let's get started to the guide. So when starting, especially when starting the new season, which is going to come out tomorrow, is let's talk about the class. So obviously when you start the season, you're going to need to make a season character and you're going to pick a class. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth on what class you should pick. I think you should pick a class that you think you will have fun playing, because ultimately what will keep you playing BDO is you having fun. And at the end of the day, who wants to play a game when you're not enjoying it, right? So pick a class. My suggestion is find a guide for that particular class to help you understand some mechanics of the class and stuff, and also give you idea. You can look at other classes before you even pick your class to have an idea what you want to play. So there's different aspects, like there's classes that use physical damage, some classes are range, some classes are magic users. Just pick whatever you choose or what you want to play. So after you do that, and after you look up some guides, you'll ultimately end up starting in the beginning. There will be an option to do a tutorial. There's like 2 quests that are tutorial. I would suggest doing it, especially if you're a new player, for the reason that it will you won't need to do this quest every single time, but to get you like inducted into the game. And then after you finish those, it'll drop you off at Ancient Stone Chamber, which is this area right here. Now, you'll do some questing, and I'll say quest until you get to a point in Velia where you run into an alchemist. Now, this is where it's going to be a little different for the returning players. Since they've already done quest line, they can shorten the quest line to Valencia, which is one of the pros of having already played the quest line. You only have to do it once. So as a new player coming and starting a new season and starting a fresh account, you need to do all those quest lines from Velia all the way up to Valencia. And there's more after that, but you only have to do this once. The next season, you can shorten it as well. You can skip all those. It's just much better and a lot easier, but you need to do it at least once. It's just how the game goes. So after you do that, I will say, once you get to Velia, you should look for a guild. Why you should look for a guild? Well, because of beautiful things in this game that allow guild members to get permanent buffs. So for instance, these are some attacking buffs that are permanent, like accuracy and so on and so forth. There's also some for life skills. We're not going to really go into life skills but too much in this guide, but there's also some permanents for that. That's one thing. Another thing is there are people that will help you in your journey of playing BDO, especially if you're a newer player. They want to help you. They want keep you in the game, keep you active. Most importantly, they're there to help you. And one of the things that guild members will help you with is especially if you're a new player, they will power level you. Now, why would I say power level? Because there's a certain section where you would get, it's easier to be power leveled. And why you would want to be power leveled is because it helps you gain skills quicker early on, and so on and so forth. Now, my suggestion would be do it for your first run through, do it yourself, but it's also not bad to be power leveled. I would say there are some that's important to go with power leveling, and this will kind of go into this next subject, which is a pro shop. So there are a few things that you buy from the pro shop. There's one thing I would definitely suggest if you were to buy anything in this game, you definitely need to buy the tent. But there's something that doesn't cost money that everyone gets, especially start character, that you should do right off the bat after you get a certain amount of silver, is go to the the silver spirits pick and silver event items, and you'll have two things you can buy, which are combat and skill experience for 530%. You'll want these so that you can use them when someone power levels you, if you are going to get power leveled. It'll make it more efficient and quicker for everyone involved. And for as on the aspect of the tent, you go to the campsite. It's called Nafart's campsite, right? And I would suggest, this is my tip personally. There are a few things I will go into in a second about Pearl Shop. Before we continue that, there are a few things I want to go back on. So during the season, first off, your first season is the most important season that you will play in BDO. The reason why is I will get on later on when it comes to gear. You'll want to be able to have everything done in the season to allow you to be ready for the rest of the game. It is very important your first season. And there's some things you get during your season on the Black Spirit Season Pass. And I'll use an example of something that was from a previous season that we would get. There's an item that you get each season. It's different depending on what you're using or what they give you for the season. In particular, this one season we just had was golden barley. Now, why would I suggest golden barley? Well, I bring up golden barley, that was just the item. Why is this important? Is because you want to use 20 of this early on, which you get very quickly. I think after you do like a mission on the season pass for hidden level 20 or something, I think you'll have enough. You'll have 20, and you can turn in for a tier 8 horse. And where do you turn those things in? Well, this is also why it's important to get to Velia. This town right here, which is basic center of the whole game. So after you have those 20, you'll go to a person named Polvio, which is right here, and you'll turn into him, and you'll ask for the tier 8 emblem, and then you go to the stable to register it. But my suggestion, if you're on the season, don't use a horse. It will get you places quicker if you need a long travel. But my suggestion for you, this is my tip personally, run everywhere. Reason why, you'll be able to level up your stamina in this way, and that's an important thing, especially depending on certain classes. Use stamina on movement. That's my personal tip. That's what I would suggest. So that basics of starting out has kind of been wrapped up. Now I'm going to go back into Pro Shop. Reason why is because it will transition very well to the next section we're going to be talking about. What is that next section? Well, it's going to be about nodes. So one thing I would personally say when it comes to Pro Shop is a thing that's very useful to get is for me is workers. I think workers are very important. It's basically free money you can get, and basically you can buy some from the pearl shop. This would be my advice if you got like a lot of pearls. I'd definitely say buy the extra workers lodging from the pearl shop. Now I'm going to talk about lodging in a second. This is just a suggestion, is to buy this if you have the extra pearls. You don't have to. So I just talked about nodes, but most in particular, before we get into the node part, we're going to focus on the worker part. The workers, there's a few different types. There's three in particular. There's giants, goblins, and humans. Giants are the slow, bulky guys that can carry a lot when they return, but they're very slow. Humans are like in between fast and slow, but they have a lot of luck. And goblins are your speed demons. They are the fastest, but they don't carry that much. But I will go into a detail later of why I think goblins are the best. So when getting a worker, every city, every main city, Valia, Calpheon, the blue things on the map, you get one free worker. You will go to the worker supervisor in whatever town, or the city you're in, and if you need to figure out where to find them, you hit down on the D-pad, you hit left bumper until you get to the spot where it says worker. It will be the pickaxe on the down below section. You hit right trigger, and it will bring you to the worker supervisor. When you talk to him, you'll hit contact workers. See, I already have the max I have for Velia, so I can't do this. But this is where you would go, and that's what you would click to get your worker. It does require you to use some energy, but that's okay. It's useful. My suggestion for you when you're getting a worker, regardless of what type of worker you want, don't ever get anything lower than skilled, which is blue. You'll either want blue, orange, which is professional, or red, which is artisan. I will show you the colors here in a second. So, I guess it's kind of orangish. Yellow. Professional. Then you got your dark orange, I guess, for artisan. And then you got your skilled, which is blue. If it's green or like light gray, do not get it. Novice or beginner, do not get it. It's not worth it. Why? Because you can upgrade the goblins once they get to a certain point. Every 10 levels, they get a promotion information. So when they're working and they're gathering stuff, they'll level up slowly and progressively. Once they hit the level 20, would be my recommendation and suggestion to promote them. You just go over here. They can't be doing any working. They have to just be waiting for a job or whatever, and you can promote them. So you would click on them if they have promotions available. So once they're at 20, they'll have 2 promotions. Artisan's the highest level, so they won't upgrade. So skilled, goblin worker, I'm promoting him right now. He's level 20. This is the second time. If he fails again, I will delete him. I will fire him, and then I'll just get a new worker and try and get it until they promote to artisan. Kind of rinse and repeat. Okay, so we talked about how to get the goblins. Now, here's more importantly. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, gee, thanks, Crafty. You just told me all this stuff about workers, but how do I get more spots? Well, 1 is the Pearl Shop, but 2 is lodging. And we're about to go into lodging. So that is a great question, audience. So you go into the city, and there's housing around. All right? So you would click on it, and you look. So there's some different types. You would be looking for lodging in particular. In Velia, you can look at mine. This is where I would go. I would get these 3 here. These are the best ones for Velia in particular for lodging. This one can level up twice, so you can get 2 workers for just having this one. Now, to order to get these, you will need contribution points. You will gather contribution points as you do the quests. Just do questing. You'll have plenty. You start off with 30, I believe, and you'll get more as you do missions and get quests. Now, we just talked about housing, but there's another thing that's going to be important because your workers have stamina and they need to be fed. So I'm going to go into a second about food, but while we're in this section, I'm going to talk about getting a residency, which would be in the same way as you would be getting lodging. You click on the house and you click residency instead of going over to lodging or storage or whatever. Now, when it comes to cooking, there's a side tangent. Set up your cooking in Calpheon would be my suggestion. Anyway, after you have your residency, this is where the next step is important. Your workers, they eat something called grilled bird meat. Yes, they can use beer. Don't waste beer on your workers. Use grilled bird meat. Why? It's most efficient and it's the best one to use. So, you get your grilled bird meat. I'll show you how to get it in a second. Don't worry. Don't stress. We'll get there. So, you have your residency. Now, it's important. You need to go and get the stuff to cook the recipe. What is the recipe? Well, it's right here. It's 2 chicken, 2 cooking wine, 6 deep frying oil, and 1 salt. That's just to make 1 meal. Where you get most of that stuff besides the chicken is from the chef, which is right here next to the worker where I just showed you to get the workers. When you talk to him, there's something important to grab, which is a cooking utensil. Grab the basic one. You don't need to go too advanced. This is not a cooking guide. This is just to go over to help you get the basics started so you can keep your workers working. Get your cooking utensil. You'll need to buy the cooking oil. You need to buy the salt, and you'll need to buy the cooking wine. After you have your utensil, you're ready to get started. You go to your residency. Lucky enough for this guide, I do have a residency in Velia, which happens to have some utensils. So you go to your residency, you go to your utensil, you click on it. Now, after you've done your cooking, before you've done the recipe, it will be saved. So if you had it already done, you can hit left trigger and Y, and it'll bring up any recipes you've done in the past. So you just select that. Now, the first time you do it, you won't have the recipe, so you'll have to manually do it. If you have more than this, that's fine, but don't put like 200 chicken and stuff, because you only need to put what you need for 1 meal, and this is what you need for the 1 meal. So you put this, you input this, then you hit Y to start cooking, and then you have like the thousands or whatever you have to cook. You click multiple times, you click A, then you click A again, and your guy will cook a meal. It won't take 14 seconds. I'm just cooking on a slower cooking thing just to show you for the guide. So that's how you cook the meal. After you have yourself the meal, we have the meal done. We'll need to leave the residency if we want to feed our worker. You hit up on the D-pad with left trigger. You go to the pickaxe. You hit X, recover. None of my workers need feeding, so I can't feed them. Alright? But that's how you would do it. That's how you would feed your workers. Keep them their bellies full and merry, because if you don't, they're going to revolt on you, and they ain't going to work. That's just the way it works. One thing to be to know, you need to have two spaces in your storage for them to bring stuff for that city. So always have two empty spaces in your city storage. Okay, now we've talked about this. Now it's my tip. It's a crafty tip. My crafty tip for this section is go with goblins. Why goblins? People say humans give you better luck. Goblins are just the best. If you're willing to attend to them, give them food quite frequently, they will get you the most stuff. Even though they have less luck than humans and stuff, because they are so fast, they outpace the humans and they're able to actually get you more resources than the humans in a day's span because they're so much faster. That's something that's very important to be aware of. That's why goblins are the best. Now, there are substitute goblins in certain areas. It would be dwarfs over in Adraxia, which is the same as a goblin. And then there's like these little, I don't know how to explain it. They kind of look like Ewoks. A Papu in Grana. That's the equivalent of a goblin over in that section. Anyway, my tip for that would be go goblin. All right, so nodes. Nodes are very important because we talked about resources, and one of the resources I would suggest getting early on, the node more particularly, is chicken. There are 2 nodes in Velia that you want to get early on. You click on Bertelli Farm, which is south of Velia, and there's one called Finto Farm, east of Velia. Yeah, hit after you've went in this area, you will unlock the area. You'll need to talk to a particular person called the node manager. After you've talked to the node manager, you will then say you would like to invest into the node. After you've invested in the node, you will go down and click chicken meat production and invest in that. So that is how you get the meat production node. This is important because that will sustain your workers throughout the whole game. You'll have so much chicken, you will not know what to do with it. Trust me. Just always cook the grilled chicken bird. This is the best meal. This is the most efficient way. It self-sustains your workers. You also get other things. This is not a whole thing about nodes. This is just the basics. So you talk to the node manager, you invest in it. Now, here's one thing to be aware of. If you have a value pack on, you don't have to be at the node to unlock it. You can be anywhere. If you have a value pack, you can do it from anywhere in the map. But if you don't, you have to go to the node personally. You have to be there in person to do it, to get the node. Okay, with that being said, let's crack on to the last part of the guide, which is kind of almost the most important part. Gear and where to grind. So I talked about how the first season is the most important. Why is it the most important? It's because if it's your first season playing in BDO, you have the choice of, out of all the Tavala gear that turns into boss at the end of the season, you usually get to choose a piece of boss gear you want. But in your first season, you can choose out of any of the boss gear pieces. So every piece of Tavala you get pen, which is the max level, which is what you're going to want to do for the season, you will need to have gotten it pen. Once you, at the end of the season, you can choose. This is why it's important to be in a guild, because they will help you with this. They'll help you get full pen to get you to where you need to be. You'll want full Tavala gear, so you can choose out of any of the boss gears at the end of the season. Now, during the season, I will advise you to start working on some things you can do during the season. There are things called world bosses and dark rifts. They will give you a thing called aura, which is when you kill a boss. there are boss gear pieces according to the bosses. So one piece of gear is called Red Nose that you will get. If you want to upgrade your Red Nose, you will need to kill the boss Red Nose because he will give you the Red Nose aura. Some bosses are world bosses, some bosses are Dark Rift bosses. The world bosses have set days and times that they spawn in. The Dark Rifts is like once a week. The world bosses can be multiple times. So like Randa, I think, is on Saturday at 12 at night or something like that, or certain times. There's a thing on BDO. Anyway, after you kill them, they'll give you something called Bag's Laden Aura. This is important because you can start working on this at the start of your season. And you will want to keep these and turn them in weekly. You want to do this mission weekly. You'll talk to Jetina, which she's in any major city. You just look for her, and you'll type in which weekly mission you want to turn in. You only need to do it 4 times at max, depending on how much you have. You'll need 360 of the concentrated boss crystals, which you get from turning in the aura, which is this thing. Concentrated bag crystal. You want 360, so sometimes you have to do this quest 4 times, or you can just kill the boss again until you have enough, or 360 in particular. You'll turn in 3 times. So you just hit A, then you'll talk to her, and you'll hand over the Bag's Laden aura. Alright? I don't need it because I already have all the crystals. I just did it for the guide. So that's the basic in that part. And that was my tip. The last bit, sorry for this video going a little long. It wasn't intended on it, but it is kind of an important information I'm trying to give to you guys. This is my first video, so kind of bear with me. It will get better as I do more videos and so on. So the last thing is about grinding. So with grinding, you'll get things called trash loot, and you'll get stuff throughout the game. My suggestion is keep everything besides trash loot. If you when you talk to any person that has a shop, and if you hit Y where it says sell all junk items, if it sells, then you know it's okay to sell because it's not worth keeping. It's just there for silver. The reason why I say keep everything is because just shortly, you don't know what you're going to be into later on in the game, and there are some things that are harder to get, so keeping them is never a bad idea until you flush out what you want to do in the end. Alright, so that's the tip there. Now when it comes to grinding, you'll get some things in certain areas. When you're doing season, the best time to do this is after you have your gear upgraded enough where you're able to go into this area called Blood Wolf Settlement. You'll want to start killing 3 particular types of mobs in this regions. They give you something called an infinite pot piece. This is something you want to start working on, especially as a new player, is you want to kill these things at this place, at Blood Wolves, because they give you an item called Blood Wolf's Oath, and sometimes they have a chance to drop the whole piece, which is this. There is a weekly here you can do for killing. You want to start this early on when you start playing BDO, because later on when you have higher gear, you're actually losing silver because you shouldn't be grinding here, essentially, because it's not worth your time, even though you will need to because you want to have the pot piece. And it never runs out once you have the full pot piece. You'll get 100 of those pieces and you'll turn them in. So one is here. The second one is at Shurikens, which is here. It gives you a thing called Dragon's Fane. If the whole piece drops, it's called this. And the last area is Rhinos's, which is this one. And the piece is called Tranquil Tinulum and Ancient Ron's Tintown Blue. I don't know how to say that. That's like a tongue twister, right? You can read it, even though I can't say it. So that's that. The reason why I showed him in that order is because the one you can start grinding early is Blood Wolves, because it's only 190 AP. It's the weakest of the three. Then you can go to Shurikens, and then you can go to Rhinos. Now, I'm going to be honest, you probably won't get all three done in a season. Potentially you can get one, maybe two. But more than likely you'll probably just be doing one for the season, because it takes a long time. Now, if you're lucky, like a guildmate of mine named Gore Grimfane, who gets every RNG luck in the world and can get things dropped in like a matter of seconds, then you'll be lucky. You'll be on the third one. But if you're like me, you'll be spending plenty of time there. Well, that is the guide for today. I hope this helps you. Please like, comment, tell me what I could have done better, what you'd like to see in the future, some comments or questions you have I can go over in another video. This is not the end all be all for all these subjects. There are particular guides for each of them. This is just the basics for the season, just to get you started and going. But please like, follow, subscribe. Follow me over on Twitch. It's Crafty Games. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.